On my 70th birthday, I hosted an incredible party, but my kids didn't show up. What I discovered left me questioning everything. The smell of freshly baked lasagna filled the air, mingling with the vibrant scent of blooming daisies and peonies that adorned every table. I had spent weeks planning, selecting each flower with care, remembering how my mother had always insisted on a touch of beauty for such occasions. The decorations sparkled under the soft glow of fairy lights, the centerpiece of pink roses giving the room a sense of warmth. Yet, as I adjusted the settings on the last plate, an undercurrent of anxiety twisted in my stomach. Would they come? My phone buzzed, shattering the hopeful bubble I had created. My daughter's text came through, first a work commitment. Then, my son, buried under family obligations. Each message sunk deeper, like stones in my heart, grounding my excitement into despair. I glanced at the empty chairs, one by one, imagining them occupied by laughter, chatter, love. Instead, I sat in silence, the only witness to my growing ache. Why did success steal them away from me? Had I not raised them with the importance of family? An internal voice nagged, questioning my values as a mother. Had I prioritized nurturing their future over the bond of togetherness? With each passing moment, I felt the weight of past sacrifices collapsing in on me. The love I poured into their lives was met with silence today, and the haunting echoes unsettled me. Before I could spiral deeper, my gaze fell upon an old, dusty notebook atop a high shelf, almost like it was waiting for me. Pulling it down, I discovered letters from my late mother, her familiar scrawl weaving tales of her own struggles, dreams, and disappointments, the burdens she had carried alone. Each page revealed a history I had barely glimpsed, stories that cut through my heart with both clarity and confusion. Had I enforced a dream that caused my children to prioritize other commitments over me? As a quick breath caught in my throat, I implored myself to focus. This was my celebration, yet here I was, mired in regrets. I glanced at my art supplies, long relegated to the dust of the attic, remnants of a passion I'd once cherished. Driven by nostalgia and an ember of determination, I dug through the chaos, retrieving paintbrushes and canvases. Gripping the brush, I felt a pang of liberation. With each stroke upon the canvas, my confusion transformed into color blending and swirling vibrant hues that mirrored my deeply bottled emotions. My heart thrummed with fierce intensity, a cathartic expression of long-buried feelings, a juxtaposition of joy and pain evolving alongside every painted curve. Realizing this could be a new beginning, I decided to share my journey online. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Encouragement poured in. Strangers praised my unlikely talent, each comment illuminating even the darkest corners of my sadness. But in the chaos of newfound recognition, I felt even more alone. Why hadn't my children chased after their own dreams? This thought nagged at me, twisting the knife of pain deeper still. As I stood surrounded by the reflection of this new life, I felt compelled to confront my children about their unspoken priorities. A sweeping wave of anxiety surged. What would I discover beneath the surface of their explanations? Would our love stand firm against this moment of emotional reckoning? Clutching my paintbrush, I prepared to reach out. What I wished for as I stood amid my creations was not merely an answer but clarity. I yearned to reclaim familial connections that felt irrevocably lost. With my heart racing and breaths uneven, I hesitated. Can I truly bridge this gap, or will my artistic journey unveil deeper fissures? The sun dipped low, casting a warm, amber hue through the window, illuminating the paint-splattered canvas before me. I felt a heady rush as I sat, brush in hand, enveloped by the comforting chaos of my studio. Each color was a memory, vivid and intertwined with my emotions. And yet, the emptiness of my home echoed louder than the colors splashed on the canvas. With every heartfelt creation, a deepening realization nestled itself within. I was not merely expressing myself, I was yearning for connection, for my children to understand the passion that had come alive within me once again. That I, in the wake of my birthday, the weight of my silence lingered, urging me to confront my truth. I had spent decades nurturing my children, channeling my dreams into their achievements, neglecting my own in the process. Yes, they were bright, ambitious, and driven, but had I unknowingly pushed them to a point where they could not see the value of family? It was a question I desperately needed to find an answer to. The following morning, I resolved to send a message to both my son and daughter. Instead of a mere inquiry about their lives, I poured out my heart, sharing my thoughts, my newfound journey into art, and how their absence had left me yearning for understanding and connection. My words flowed like paint on canvas, guided by an impulse I had long ignored. I hit send, hesitantly bracing myself for their responses. For once, I leaned into my vulnerability. I could feel the creative energy building within me, compelling me to push forward with my artwork. With every brushstroke, I could depict more than just personal anguish. I could express an invitation, a way of drawing my children back into my world. It wasn't about reproach, it was about reconciliation. Days passed. I filled the studio with emotion-driven pieces that echoed my journey, a vibrant landscape of hope amidst an undercurrent of sorrow. Each painting became a silent dialogue, expressing the love I felt for my children despite the chasms that had formed. My online audience continued to grow, many resonating with the poignancy of my story. Still, my heart longed for the voices that mattered most, the ones that had once filled this space with laughter. Finally, a reply from my daughter flickered onto my screen. Her words were tender and thought-provoking, but included a note of sadness that pierced my heart. She explained how they had both been so engrossed in their pursuits that they had lost sight of where their roots were planted. Each word felt like a brushstroke mending the distance between us, yet it was layered with complexities that still needed addressing. Them. My son followed suit with a more pragmatic response, discussing family obligations and how he wished life permitted more time with me. Choosing to see the humility behind his words, I realized my children were not the only ones who needed clarity. I needed to understand their drives, their fears, and perhaps, their desire to create a balance that they felt I had never achieved. As I prepared to respond, I paused, reflecting on the patterns of our past. Through my silence and their busyness, how had we, what once felt like an unshakable trio, arrived at this point of distance? I felt an unquenchable thirst to bridge this gap, to create a moment where each of us could stand united again, fostering a new kind of familial connection that appreciated individuality alongside togetherness. Then I thought about the upcoming holiday, a time when families typically gather around the hearth. This could be the catalyst for our reunion, a chance to not only showcase my growth but to engage them in this new chapter of my life. Would they accept the invitation, or would their commitments pull them away once again? My heart raced at the thought. Encroaching dread met a flicker of hope. I could no longer wait passively. I needed to act. I started drafting my invitation to them. A mix of excitement and fear coursed through my veins. The moment of truth was nearing, a defining chance to unravel the tapestry of our complex relationships. And perhaps, just perhaps, to weave something new and beautiful together. This was just the beginning, but deep inside, I feared what truths might surface. Would I discover the very absence that hurt the most also bore the key to healing? The days melted into an anxious anticipation as I meticulously planned my invitation. Words hovered in my mind like the colors on my palette, each sentence necessitating assertive strokes to create an image of longing and hope. I chose my words carefully, cementing a message that resonated with vulnerability and strength. It had to reflect my willingness to reimagine our relationship, to paint a canvas bright with possibilities instead of the dim shadows of neglect. That I typed out the heartfelt invitation, my fingers trembling slightly over the keys. I wrote about the holiday gathering, how it wasn't merely a feast but a chance to reconnect. I expressed my desire to share my art, the very essence that had been ignited within me in recent months, a piece of myself that I wanted them to witness. It wasn't only about familial obligation, it was an opportunity for each of us to pause and reflect, to choose to step into a moment that could redefine our future. As I pressed send, a flurry of emotions twisted in my stomach. What if they saw my overture as desperation? What if they felt I was clinging too hard to bygone days? Would they call me to discuss the logistics of their busy lives and offer polite excuses? I wrestled with these thoughts, pushing back against the darkness that threatened to overshadow my hope. Meanwhile, my mind shifted toward my art. Saturated with that hopeful energy, I dove into a new painting, channeling my emotions onto the canvas with fervor. Brushstroke by brushstroke, I crafted a scene that incorporated the vivid, joyful memories I had blessedly retained over the years, the laughter, the hugs, and the countless moments we had shared, layered beautifully over a backdrop of swirling blues and golds. It felt as if every hue was a reminder of the connection I longed to nurture anew, yet amidst this creativity, a troubling thought nagged at me. How had I allowed neglect to seep into our family dynamic? I had always prioritized their triumphs over my own, but at what cost? My life had revolved around being their support, often muting my own dreams. The fear of inadequacy loomed large. Had my sacrifices left them detached rather than appreciative? This revelation stung, making me question whether my actions had fostered independence or just an isolating distance. That a week slipped by before the pulse of anxiety in my chest began to fade, and I received a response. Surprisingly, my son's reply came first. "Mom, we appreciate the invitation. I'll try to arrange my schedule to be there." Though it was a tentative approval, it paved the way for open communication. I could sense an undertow of acknowledgement, a glimmer that he too felt the weight of our estrangement. Next came my daughter's message. She was more effusive, excited even. "That sounds amazing. I would love to come." Her enthusiasm felt like a balm to my fretting heart, feeding a flicker of hope that our family might genuinely reunite, reinvigorating connections once thought lost. In this moment of unexpected delight, I felt empowered not by their acceptance but by the realization that the past did not dictate our future. I could take the narrative into my hands, cultivating a space for dialogue that was both delicate and unyielding. But before I could fully bask in this epiphany, another thought surfaced. How would I present my own changes? Was I ready to reveal the depths of my artistic journey, allowing them to witness my transformation? Each decision became monumental. I stared at the mirror that hung beside my easel, reflecting the woman I had fought to reinvent. I recognized strength in my reflection, the testament of a life replete with vibrant possibilities. The opportunity one had been waiting for was slowly materializing, but I couldn't ignore the questions that loomed large. Would the unveiling of my art influence their perception of me? Would they support my evolution, or would the revelation spark fear and uncertainty? As I stood in anticipation of the gathering, I realized that the moment of truth was upon me, a compelling crossroads that could forever alter our family's trajectory. The holiday drew near, teetering on the edge of potential and peril. I could feel the energy pulsing around me, propelling my determination. What truths would emerge when we were finally face to face? What hidden emotions had been waiting to surface in the warmth of familial connection? I felt the stirring inside, my courage quaking against a backdrop of rising dread, as we approached a moment that could change everything. The morning of the gathering dawned gray and overcast, a fitting backdrop for the emotions that swelled within me. I moved through the house, arranging fresh flowers and polishing glassware, each task fueling my thoughts. With every bouquet I set down, I considered the weight of what I was doing, not just hosting a holiday gathering but initiating a long overdue reunion with my children. Would they see me, not just as their mother, but as a vibrant individual? Or would I forever remain trapped in their memories as the woman who sacrificed her own passions for their pursuits? The vivid colors from my recent painting glimmered at me from the easel, a reminder of the transformation I yearned to showcase. I felt a longing to express how art had revitalized my spirit, channeling emotions into something tangible. But even with that desire, I grappled with the fear of judgment. What if they didn't appreciate the evolution I'd embraced? What if my triumph felt trivial against the backdrop of their achievements, their lives? As guests began to filter in, I clung to the fragile threads of hope that bound us together. Conversations buzzed around me, laughter and chatter blending, and I forced myself to breathe deeply, to immerse in the present rather than retreat into the recesses of my mind. When my daughter arrived, her warm embrace sent a rush of comfort through me, but as my son stepped through the doorway with a tight-lipped smile, I felt the familiar undercurrent of tension. We chatted over appetizers, navigating topics ranging from trivial familial updates to deeper conversations about the world outside our home. Yet, beneath our pleasantries, I sensed a tension simmering. Each moment felt like a step on a tightrope, balancing my need for vulnerability against their comfort with facade. My heart raced as I contemplated breaking that delicate silence. "Can I show you what I've been working on?" The words escaped me unbidden, a burst of courage mingled with trepidation. I hesitated, every eye in the room drawn to me, waiting. Slowly, I led them to my studio, where the painting stood a visual representation of the life I'd been cultivating. Their expressions shifted from curiosity to skepticism as they took in the layers of color, the abstract shapes merging into meaningful forms. I yearned for approval in their eyes but braced for judgment instead. "Mom, this is different," my son finally said, his brow furrowed as he inspected a bold stroke of crimson. "Different." The word hung in the air like a tension conversation yet to unfold. "It's a reflection of my journey," I replied, each syllable tinged with nostalgic hurt. "A journey of rediscovery. I wanted to share that part of myself with you." A silence enveloped us, heavy with emotions I couldn't name. My daughter stepped forward, her hand on my arm. "It's beautiful. You've poured so much of yourself into this." I clung to her words, desperate for affirmation. But my son's steady gaze chased a nagging fear in my chest. Informal conversations creaked and strained like old floorboards. The rift that had formed in our normalcy was palpable, and at that moment, I realized I had opened a canister of questions that could unravel us further. What if my transformation was a mirror reflecting their reluctance to change? What if they preferred the version of me that simply existed for them? The conversation steered, shifting dynamics like a restless tide. I found myself navigating an unsteady course, caught in the oscillation of connection and disconnection. The revealing of my art had been both a bridge and a chasm. As the day wore on, unspoken words continued to gather weight around us. I felt the swell of emotions: fear, hope, vulnerability coiling tightly in my chest. Had I taken this leap only to plunge into deeper misunderstanding? During the moments of laughter, I sensed the encroaching yet unmentioned reality of our past and the decisions that now loomed in front of us, unresolved. The gathering was supposed to signify a newfound beginning, yet I couldn't shake the apprehension that we were still grappling with shadows beneath the festive cheer. The truth was heavy on the horizon, waiting to be unveiled, yet the time hadn't come. I realized I stood at a precipice, looking down at an uncertain future for us all, and in that realization, another thought sparked within me, igniting an urgency for deeper understanding. What truths lay unspoken between us, begging to emerge in the open? The gathering had turned into an echo of my revelations, but we weren't done yet. I felt the edges of courage sharpen, leading me to contemplate the most daunting task of all, a heartfelt confrontation. The climax was yet to unfold, and I stood ready, determined to face the truths hanging in the air, ready for whatever storms might come. Would my courage unravel the misunderstandings, or would it tear us apart even further? Only time would reveal the answers hidden in our unspoken words. The evening began to unfold like a half-remembered dream, the air thick with unsaid words and lingering looks. I stood there in my studio, surrounded by vibrant canvases, my breath shallow, acutely aware of the chasm that still lay between us. I glanced at my children, my daughter, who appeared intent on offering support, and my son, whose expression mirrored confusion and skepticism. What lay beneath the surface remained tantalizingly elusive, like a horizon obscured by fog. As silence stretched, I decided to harness the momentum of vulnerability I had summoned. "I know this journey of mine may feel sudden to you, but it's been a long time coming. I've spent so many years supporting you both. There were days I lost sight of what I wanted, what I could become. I hope now to inspire you, to show you that life is bigger than the roles we play." My voice wavered as I picked my way through the uneasy terrain of my longing for understanding. My son crossed his arms, his brows still furrowed. "Mom, you didn't need to prove anything to us. We just thought you were okay with things as they were." Each word from him felt like stones dropping into a deep well, rippling the surface of our reunion. No, I wasn't okay. I fought against a longing that sometimes felt too reckless to acknowledge. "A need for creation, for expression," I replied, a knot tightening in my throat. "Can't you see? This art represents life, my life. Not just as your mother, but as me. I'm here, fully in the moment, and I want you to see that too." A wave of sadness washed over me as I felt a shift within the room. The festive decor seemed to fade, the laughter outside dwindled, replaced by an unsettling silence. My daughter's face softened, but I could see uncertainty flicker in my son's gaze. "Why didn't you tell us earlier?" my daughter whispered, her voice tinged with concern. "We always assumed you were happy with how things were." There it was, a glimmer of realization, a crack in the protective barrier that had surrounded our family conversations for years. I had begged to be seen, yet somewhere along the line, they had internalized the silence from me. "I thought I was. I wrapped myself in your lives, filling your needs and watching you grow. I wanted to be proud of you. But I lost sight of my own dreams. I didn't want to burden you with my struggles," I admitted, feeling the heat of tears threatening to spill forth. "What if we wanted to share those burdens?" my daughter challenged gently. "You could have turned to us. We're here because of you." The moment hung suspended like the colors of my paintings, each hue representing a piece of this intricate relationship. Maybe we were all missing the point. Their lives had been built on my sacrifices, and now that I sought a different foundation, it felt as though the framework of our existence was fracturing. Had I miscalculated their responses to my burgeoning independence? In that fragile space between hope and fear, I sensed an opening. Perhaps this was the true essence of growth, not just my own, but of us all. "I am ready to rebuild this bond," I said, the determination swelling within me like the tides. "I want to hear your hopes and fears, your aspirations and disappointments." I took a step closer, my heart pounding against the armor of uncertainty. What if, instead of existing for one another, we each chase our passions together? As newfound vulnerability enveloped the room, I held my breath, waiting for their reactions. I could feel the stirring of potential as they searched each other's faces and mine. What could anger bring to the surface? What dreams resided unseen, waiting to be spoken aloud? "Mom, what do you mean by that?" my son asked, his skepticism still tinged with curiosity. "That means discussing what we really want," I began, my heart racing. "There's strength in embracing uncomfortable truths. Maybe it's time we confront not just what I want, but what you both have held back as well." The dialogue I had once feared might tear us apart now held the promise of connection. The journey was just beginning, but with a leap of courage and the resolve to speak our truths, we had the chance to rewrite our collective narrative. The path ahead shimmered with uncertainty, but there was clarity in the shadows, an undeniable sense that the moment had finally arrived to awaken old dreams and unearth new ones. As I stared into their searching eyes, I felt a surge of adrenaline. What truths lay buried, and were we ready to unearth them together? The tension held swaths of promise, each second weighted with the unknown. My children gazed at me, a blend of hope and trepidation glimmering in their eyes. In that charged atmosphere, I felt something shift, as though a bridge formed between our hearts, ready to withstand the turbulence of our unspoken fears. "Mom, I think you're onto something," my daughter said slowly, breaking the quiet. "We've all gotten so used to circumstances that maybe we forgot to ask ourselves what we want." "What do you want?" Her words reverberated within me, settling in the murky depths of the desires I had long buried. It suddenly became clear. This wasn't merely about me sharing my dreams, it was an invitation for us all to step into the light of authenticity together. "I want to paint, to be unapologetic about expressing myself. I want to create a space imbued with my truth, where the colors aren't just splashes on the canvas but reflections of my experience," I explained, feeling the swell of emotion in my throat, invigorating yet terrifying. My son shifted his stance, uncrossing his arms, as if already delineating a line between the before and after. "But what does that mean? Are you saying you want to change your whole life?" I paused, digesting his needs for clarity, even in the face of my own. I know change feels daunting. But embracing my aspirations doesn't mean I'm abandoning what we have. Rather, I intend to deepen our bonds through honesty. I'm not sure where that path leads, but I've spent too long trapped in indecision. I saw understanding begin to create small cracks in his wall, pieces of uncertainty softening. Yet the specter of skepticism still lingered just beneath the surface. "So what happens if you don't get the recognition you want? What if it's not what you hoped?" The question cut sharply through the air, dredging up old fears I thought wanted to remain hidden. "Then I will adjust. I'm learning to appreciate the journey over the destination. I can't craft significance without trial, and without risk, growth remains stunted. His response was a silent contemplation, a man wrestling with the shifting environment beneath his feet. I felt a strange solidarity expanding within me, despite the tensions already laid bare. I turned to my daughter. What of you? You've always stuck to what others expected of you. What do you truly want? She inhaled deeply, the weight of the moment flooding into her lungs. I've wanted to dance again, she hesitated, words almost lost within a flickering flame of vulnerability. But I let the demands of school and work push that aside. I feel silly admitting that now. Why would it be silly? What would it take for you to follow that dream? Now it was my turn to ignite yet another spark of exchange, and I hoped to fan the flames of their desires. I think I need to acknowledge the fear of failure, she replied softly, her gaze wavering as doubt crept in. What if I'm not good enough anymore? Greatness is often born out of imperfection. Those fears exist for all of us, I countered, my resolve growing stronger. Sharing them lessens their hold over us. The conversation unfolded with a new life of its own, narratives weaving and intertwining in rippling waves of honesty. We began reminiscing about our past. Some memories were joyous, others harder to swallow. But with every shared moment, I felt our collective fears and aspirations blending into something tangible, reshaping the outline of our family's identity. As the evening deepened, I began to feel the ineffable thrill of a cumbersome weight lifting. With every truth spoken, we drew closer, stepping into the unknown as a unit, discovering that one person reclaiming their passion could ignite a parallel journey for another. Tomorrow, I proposed, let us pursue our passions. You dance, I'll create more art. Let us make a commitment to ourselves. They nodded, cautious yet captivated by the prospect of rediscovery. Yet, even as possibility filled the air, an unsettling notion crept back, a familiar doubt. What if our shared desires led to disappointment and conflict? What if the journey was too harsh a terrain? As I observed my children, a new question surfaced in my mind. Would we possess the resilience to navigate chasms of self-doubt together? Looking into the depths of their eyes, I found myself yearning for the answers that time and experience could only reveal. What obstacles awaited us on this winding path of honest self-exploration? I could feel the thrill of uncertainty dance at the edge of comprehension. As dawn broke, I felt a surge of energy pulsing through me. The quiet house, once a museum of my restrained ambitions, now resonated with the hum of possibilities. Each shadow across the floor reminded me of my commitment to paint, to express colors swirling in my mind that begged for liberation. The canvas awaited my touch, but alongside it lay the weight of expectation, my children's. I stepped into the kitchen, preparing breakfast as my thoughts swirled. I couldn't help but wonder how my pursuits would affect them. What would the morning reveal about our newly declared commitment to unleash our passions? Despite the clarity we had briefly found, seeds of doubt still nestled in the corners of my mind. Mom, are you ready? My son's voice broke through my thoughts. He appeared in the entryway, a hesitant smile emerging on his face. His morning demeanor felt fragile yet determined, indicating he was wrestling with his own apprehensions. Yes. How about you? I smiled back, wishing to encourage him, even as a flicker of uncertainty laced my voice. He took a deep breath, as if summoning courage. I think I'll go for a run first. Clear my mind before I get to it. Good idea. Movement sometimes helps shake the fears loose, I replied, though my stomach churned with the anticipation of facing the unknown terrain of my own creative endeavor. As the door clicked shut behind him, I reflected on how this day could either mark the beginning of a new chapter or become another reminder of unrealized ambitions. I didn't want my canvas to remain blank, it needed life, just like my children needed to breathe into their own passions. After clearing away the plates, I found my brushes and pigments buried under years of neglect. It was as though I were unearthing parts of myself that had long been forgotten. I could feel them beckon, urging me toward the letting go of the past and the embrace of creation. With open space before me, I finally dipped my brush into the cobalt blue, each stroke invigorating the canvas while dulling the ache of uncertainty. However, with every swirl of paint, questions traipsed through my mind. What if I fail to capture the essence I seek? What if my brush only yields chaos? But then, I forced myself to remember, growth flourishes in ambiguity. With newfound clarity, I could acknowledge that imperfection was indeed part of the journey, not an endpoint. Hours slipped away, lost in the rhythm of movement and creation. An indescribable joy blossomed in my chest, punctuated occasionally by self-doubt, but it only fueled my momentum. I began to realize that this process was more than about producing art. It was a reclamation of my identity. Later, I heard light footsteps on the wooden stairs. My daughter emerged, her face glowing with a mix of determination and anxiety. "I'm thinking about trying to find a dance class again," she said, her resolve punctuated by a subtle tremor in her voice. "Do it," I encouraged, feeling her energy intertwine with my own as if we were synchronizing to an unspoken rhythm. "Just let go of the fear, it doesn't have to have a clear outcome. It's about rediscovering your passion." She paused, absorbing my words as if letting them settle. Then her body relaxed as she smiled, a bridge of understanding developing in the space between us. However, the nagging doubt that surfaced in me echoed. What if neither of us succeeded? What if this journey deepened past wounds instead of mending them? The fear loomed, but it also felt like a call to arms. Perhaps facing these uncertainties together could fortify our family bond. Each hour spent on my art reeled me deeper into introspection, and I started capturing fleeting memories, intertwining hues representing not just myself but also reflections of my children's dreams. As I painted, each stroke illuminated an intersection of our lives, exposing connections forged in vulnerability. But another thought flickered in my mind, unsettling yet invigorating. Would embracing our own passions lead to divergence, or would it draw us closer? Would my journey in rediscovering joy through art create space for their own exploration, or would it instead spotlight our differences? Before I could disentangle my thoughts, my son returned, his face flushed and eyes bright. "Want to see something?" he asked, excitement bubbling beneath surface hesitation. "Yes, show me." I passed my brush aside, feeling a flicker of anticipation within. We could easily become separate threads in this tapestry of change, but would these colors weave together harmoniously or clash? As he displayed his progress, a new worry settled in. Might his pursuit overshadow mine? The walls felt breathless with shared anticipation, but uncertainty clung to me, as I realized we stood on the precipice of transformation. Would our mutual explorations bind us or fracture the delicate fabric we had begun to weave together, and could we muster the courage to embrace that unknown? As the afternoon sun poured into the living room, illuminating the chaos of unfinished paintings and scattered brushes, a crackling tension intermingled with a sense of clarity. I took a moment to reflect on the vibrant yet uncertain atmosphere swirling around us, a mix of excitement and apprehension that my children now felt, just as strongly as I did. My son's enthusiasm radiated from him, yet the flicker of doubt in my own heart cast a long shadow as he stepped back, revealing a digital creation on his tablet, an animated design he'd spent hours perfecting. "Look. I'm showing my ideas for an online game," he said, his fingers tapping animatedly on the screen as he narrated the plot. I couldn't help but smile at his passion, but beneath it lay unease. Would this passion for technology consume him, overwhelming our more tactile artistic pursuits? "Wow, that's incredible," I replied, feigning a buoyancy I didn't fully feel, aware that my own fervor for painting might inadvertently dim his light. The competitive undertone of our shared aspirations hung in the air like a taut wire, ready to snap at the first overly bright stroke. As he explained the game mechanics, his excitement infectious, I pondered. What if our passions diverged? Was there space in our home for both our journeys, or were we destined to be rivals in the arena of creativity? Could we collaborate? I posed hesitantly, watching the spark in his eyes flicker, the gleam of potential tempered by the weight of my suggestion. "I could illustrate characters or backgrounds for you." He paused, brow furrowed, perhaps weighing the balance of teamwork and independence. "I wanted it to be mine," he confessed, his resolve faltering under the scrutiny of my hopeful gaze. "But maybe we could design a few together?" That simple agreement revealed layers of fear and ambition tangled in our familial bond. I felt a rush of pride for him, mingling with a deep-seated worry that my past unfulfilled dreams still haunted us. What if my attempts to intertwine our creativity suffocated his autonomy? My daughter wandered in, her presence a palpable anchor. "You two look like you're scheming something," she teased, glancing between us with her knowing smile. I'm all in for collaborations if you need a choreographer. Choreographer? My son raised an eyebrow. Is this about the dance class? He threw a sidelong glance at me, an unspoken question hanging. Yes, she admitted, her courage bolstered by her brother's enthusiasm. I signed up earlier today. I didn't want to be apart from you two in this, more of a collective experience, like a project. In that moment, an intense vibration of unity pulsed through the room. There we stood, three artists bound together by our individual fears yet woven by our mutual aspirations. The idea of our pieces blending visual art, digital creation, and dance started forming a delicate pattern in my mind. A tapestry threaded with passion, uncertainty, and a desire to understand one another. Let us not just create in isolation, I proposed, my voice a buoyant thread stitching our ambitions together. What if we have a showcase? A day where we present our passions to each other, no expectations, just pure expression. Both faces lit up, a mix of excitement and trepidation illuminating their expressions. I saw reflected in them what had been brewing within me, the need to not only create but to also share. But persistently looming was the fear that this venture might overwhelm us, that I might falter under the spotlight we were about to collectively step into. Could I sustain our blossoming creative collaboration without diminishing their individual pursuits? Suddenly, the weight of envisioning a showcase felt heavier than I expected. A brilliant idea steeped in both hope and tension, the proverbial double-edged sword. Amid the surge of creativity, I realized we would need to nurture our individual journeys while holding space for one another. I clung to this thought as tightly as I grasped the brush poised before me, the uncertainty of what lay beyond the budding collaboration. Twisting in my stomach. The emerging equilibrium hinted at profound personal revelations, the knowledge that embracing our unique paths was just as critical as our interwoven journeys. But was that balance achievable? As the reality of our shared endeavor unfolded, I sensed the ground beneath us shifting, the lingering question echoed in my mind. Could we truly celebrate each other as successes, or would the pursuit of personal fulfillment deepen the cracks that threatened to break us apart? Just as I braced for this new chapter, an unexpected knock on the door pulled my thoughts away, the sound reverberating in the thick tension of the moment. As I turned to answer it, I felt a shiver of anticipation and dread twirl through my heart, confronting the truth that awaited beyond the threshold. Would this be a moment of affirmation or challenge, an emblematic overture heading into uncharted emotional territory? As I hesitated at the door, a gust of uncertainty whipped through my mind. I could feel my heart pound against the backdrop of our collective artistic dreams clashing. The knock echoed again, reminding me that decisions were not just confined to conversations, but often found their way into reality in the most unexpected of manners. That I opened it to reveal a familiar face, one I had not expected to see. It was Carl, my old college professor, whose fiery lectures had shaped my early artistic aspirations. His presence was a reminder of the dreams I had once harbored with clarity, only to drown them in the complexities of adulthood. Surprise! He declared, a wide grin splitting his face. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd drop by. A sudden rush of nostalgia stirred within me, mingled with the bitterness of time lost. I hadn't picked up a paintbrush with pure fervor in ages. Every stroke had felt burdened, heavy with the implications of success and failure. Here Carl stood, carrying the unfiltered enthusiasm that stirred my creative spirit long before my doubts took root. It's great to see you, Carl, I managed, forcing a smile that betrayed my inner turmoil. As he stepped over the threshold, the weight of our conversation loomed. What had I accomplished since those early days? Would he still recognize the artist I was? Your children seem to have found their calling, he began, glancing around the chaotic room. I must say, I'm impressed by their passion. Have you considered what your role is in their journey? His question struck deeper than I anticipated, stirring a mix of admiration for their potential and shame for my own stagnation. I just want them to shine, I responded, the words coated in a hint of vulnerability. But sometimes, I think my own dreams hold them back. Carl's gaze softened. Remember, the most authentic art comes from an unencumbered heart. You don't have to dim your own light for theirs to shine. He adjusted his glasses as if to peer straight into my doubts, challenging the very foundations of my beliefs about sharing space in the creative realm. fighting back the swell of emotions, I paced the room, pondering the dichotomy of growth. Could my journey as an artist coexist harmoniously with those of my children's? Trying to balance ambition within them while reclaiming my own pursuit felt paradoxical, yet tantalizing. Perhaps it's time to show them what you're truly capable of, he suggested, the glint of inspiration igniting within my chest. What would happen if you broke free from your self-imposed limitations and embraced collaboration without fear? Carl's words called for my best self, the artist who reveled in the thrill of impromptu strokes and vibrant colors. The idea rattled my core. Sharing my craft with my children could inspire them without stifling their uniqueness. They needed to see me tapping into the depths of my creative identity, scrapping doubts in favor of exploration. Their essay showcase we've planned, I blurted, the idea branching out like wild vines. A day for us to express ourselves openly. Maybe, just maybe, they'd benefit from seeing me create without the chains of expectations. Suddenly, the air felt electric with potential, the worries curling into the shadows of resolve. Integrating my past aspirations with our present intentions appeared more tantalizing by the minute. I felt something unfurling within me, a desire not only to uplift my children but to remember the artist I once aspired to be. But what if they didn't want to see me like that? What if they still needed me in the role of the supportive parent, and not as a competitor for creativity? That thought loomed like a cloud, ready to dampen the spark ignited by Carl's presence. As Carl settled into our artistic chaos, filling the space with memories, I was torn. How would I navigate this transformative journey, balancing my need to reclaim my creative identity while ensuring my children felt fully supported? The intertwining of our paths presented from this day forth demanded new levels of honesty. Stepping into uncharted territory started to feel like both a privilege and a burden. Yet, what if my rediscovery ignited not only my passion but fortified a bond too? Just as I began to formulate a plan, the doorbell chimed once more, plunging me back into a whirlwind of uncertainty. Who else awaited beyond the threshold, and would they further complicate this familial web of creativity and ambition? Would they challenge my newfound clarity or reshape the very foundation of our roles? The moment stood heavy in the air, ripe with anticipation as I braced for whatever the next revelation might unveil. As the door creaked open, my heart swelled with anticipation at the unexpected guest who stood before me, an old friend from my college days, Maya, the vibrant spirit who had always believed in the purity of art. She stepped in with an aura of enthusiasm and warmth, filling the room with a palpable energy that reignited my aspiration. The sight of her reminded me that I was not alone in this journey. Others had waded through similar struggles of finding balance between ambition and familial bonds. "Hey, Maya. What a surprise!" I exclaimed, feeling a rush of nostalgia flood the room. "Thought I'd check in and see how my favorite artist was doing," she said, her smile infectious. It felt refreshing to share this space with someone who inspired creativity without the weight of obligation. As we chatted, she pulled my deeper thoughts into focus, challenging me to push beyond the apprehension that had cocooned me for too long. "Are you still painting just for fun? Or are you reclaiming your space in the world?" she asked, a playful sparkle in her eyes. It cut right through to the core of my conflict. "I'm trying to blend my journey with my children's," I confessed, hesitating. "I want to show them that pursuing passions enriches all our lives. But what if my art overshadows theirs?" The question hung heavily in the air, a fragile thread in our conversation. Maya's expression softened, an understanding that transcended spoken words. "What if, instead of overshadowing, your art lights a path that they can follow? Sometimes those we love need the boldness of our aspirations to find their own." Her words settled like a weight being lifted, and I felt stirrings of courage coalesce within. This idea felt like uncharted terrain, a vibrant, colorful expanse of potential. Maybe I could immerse both my art and my children's passions in an atmosphere of collaboration that celebrated our individual strengths rather than diminished them. Realization dawned on me. I needed to commit fully, to seek not just personal recognition but shared triumphs. If my journey had taught me one thing, it was that vulnerability fosters connection. Standing in my studio now, I reevaluated what success meant to me. It was a canvas filled with collaborations and exchanges, a tapestry woven from diverse threads, not a race to the finish, determined to reshape our familial narrative, I contemplated laying it all bare in an invitation, one that fostered authenticity rather than competition. Inspiration surged as a plan formed in my mind, a showcase where we could all present our passions together, celebrating our respective journeys. The next morning, I grabbed my phone. Crafting an invitation that buzzed with excitement, I wrote, "Let us have an artistry night. Come to share your work, dance, design, paint, anything goes. It's all about celebrating our unique journeys, together." With every word, I felt a weight lifting, something previously bound by self-doubt unraveling into hope. As the sunny days turned into nights of anticipation, there was a distinct shift among us. A sense of camaraderie blossomed as I found myself immersed in creating pieces that told a story, our story. Each stroke of paint seemed to pull my children closer, no longer mere spectators but fellow artists, all navigating the unfolding dynamics of our shared dreams. When the day finally arrived, a mosaic of feelings danced in me: freedom, fear, hope, and excitement. The studio was transformed, canvases adorned the walls, each vibrant color pulsing with emotions and narratives, while my son set up his digital projections and my daughter practiced her dance routines. As they arrived, I watched their faces spark with delight and apprehension, a reflection of my own internal landscape. We navigated through each other's showcases, laughter and tears blending in an exhilarating tapestry of our newly forged connections. "Mom, this is incredible," my son said as he observed my latest piece, a series of interconnected canvases harmonizing in color, depicting our journey. "It's like seeing the story of our family through your eyes." My heart swelled with pride, a recognition of what my truth had finally borne. The bonds we had once thought strained were being knitted together anew, each performance wrapped in understanding, each conversation more candid than the last. Together, we flickered glimpses of our once dimmed aspirations back to life, nurturing an environment where our individuality flourished. At that evening's close, bathed in the soft glow of fairy lights reflecting off our artistic endeavors, we decided to establish a regular family artistry night where vulnerability and authenticity could live unabashedly. Each of us learned to champion not just our successes, but those of one another. As I stood surrounded by my creations and the incredible spirits of my children, I could feel the metamorphosis. Our artistic expression had rewritten our lives, carving out a nucleus that could balance independence with connection, a newfound rhythm embracing both. By staring into the reflective mirror of our conflicting aspirations, I had grasped the essence of unity, to chase our individual visions while celebrating the collective heartbeat of our family's journey. As this chapter unfolded and the promise of the future shimmered before us, I felt a vibrancy rekindled both in artistry and connection, a tapestry I no longer feared to navigate. And in that moment, amidst the joyful chaos of our lives, satisfaction surged in me, a genuine achievement fusing passion with the pursuit of family. Now, this is a moment to embrace your inner journey of connection and achievement. Don't just linger, subscribe immediately to the channel to embark on more exclusive emotional stories of transformation. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and shout out your support. Comment your reflections and theories about this journey of self-discovery. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who are ready to explore their own paths of passion and connection. This is the moment you need to seize. Don't wait even one more second.